Hi, in this video we are going to model white pine trees from sticks and scouring pads. The tools that are necessary are tweezers, a drill, and a knife. The materials are glue, sticks, I used balsam fir or a dowel, twigs, I used the bridal spirea twig, rubber cement, black pepper, and paint are optional. And looking at possibly having some images of the trees of the white pines. Now the steps to build these are to prepare the stems, to harvest the twigs, drilling the holes in the stem, getting a base ready, assembling the branches, applying the bark optionally, gluing on the twigs, cutting our scouring pad foliage, attaching the needle clusters, and finishing bark if necessary. And we'll get right to work with our assembling of our white pine trees. And the first step I did was to collect the stems, and I used dead balsam fir from the bottom of trees. And this one's kind of large, but some of the ideal sizes are like this. And you can leave some of the dead twigs on and use these as dead branches. And I went and took a knife and cut off some of the chunks of bark so it was nice and smooth. And then later on, if you want, you can paint on some of your own scale model bark. Some of these you can see have lichen on, and you can either smooth that off or you can use that as part of your model feature. So I just collected some wild dead twigs. Like I said, I used balsam fir, and that's for our bole or our main stem of the tree. And for the branches, I used some twigs that I collected from a shrub growing in our yard, and these are from the bridal spirea. And you can see they have a nice angle to them and look something like the real tree. They're the right diameter. And these are just the dead twigs that were attached towards the bottom of the tree or at the end of some of the dead branches. And I found these to be the ideal size. Also, I like their configuration and kind of the angle of them. So I got my stem, I got my twigs, and then the first thing, then of course I had to make a base or something to put them in, and I just used a scrap piece of wood and drilled some holes in those. And that's just my holder. I'll be putting these on the layout eventually. But once I have these, I would select my twig. That's going to be my main stem, and sharpen the top a little bit so it looks more like a tree top. And then I drilled several holes in the bowl. And they're probably impossible to see on the camera, but I filled some of them with the twigs already, and then I have several more. And I'm trying to model a really old white pine, like in the vicinity of 200 years old. And by the time they get quite old, many of the branches have broken off, and there's going to be some dead branches, and they're going to be kind of gnarly looking. And so they're not going to be your nice symmetrical tree. And the thing that I was getting at, that I was trying to go for when I was drilling my holes, is I was trying to get the right branch angle. And I noticed that the white pine, the branches come out kind of like this angle, and then some of them actually point up like this, some of them droop down. They do all sorts of different things. So I have my holes drilled, I take my twig, I have them trim them with the scissors, and then I just start from the top and I just insert them into my holes. And that one looks really nice. And sometimes I'll have to take a knife and shave off the bottom of the twig a little bit more to see that it'll fit into my holes. Sometimes just pushing them kind of hard will get them in there. And so this is kind of the fun part, is getting the twigs in. And of course you'll want a variety of different looks. And some of them are going to have a lot of really close together branches. Some of them are going to just have a few branches left. Kind of like this tree. I mean, I have it so like the whole top of the tree is dead. It's got a couple live branches on towards the bottom. And then I have some of these dead ones. This one I drilled in. These two I drilled in. and these of course are just the natural ones. So anyway, I get my branches in to my satisfaction. You can add a few, dead ones down here too, but get this part the way you want it. And then I go and I put on some of this hobby tack or Elmer's glue or Gorilla Glue, super glue, any kind of glue that you like, and spread that on your twigs. And then the foliage is applied. And for the foliage, I just have a scouring pad here, and I just take my scissors and I cut about 1/8 of an inch off of that. And then I just found that if I just tear little pieces off of this, they look like branch clusters. And by tearing rather than cutting, it gives me an irregular edge. And you might want to experiment with this too to get the size that you want. But I just go ahead and I tear a bunch of them off. And it's possible that you could find a commercial product that you're happy with as well. But one scouring pad did all of these, like 7 trees, so you don't use very much. And with the hobby tack, this is good and tacky. I just go ahead and I just stick my scouring pads on there, and there I have presto my branches, which look really nice, especially from a distance. And these are going to be grouped together pretty tight on my layout. There's going to be stuff in between them. So if it looks good at a distance, that's pretty much what we're going for. And these actually don't look too bad as a close-up either. So I tried to get these, 70, 80 feet tall, scale height. And the actual trees were probably, up to 200 feet tall, for sure 150 here in Minnesota. So, but they kind of overpowers the whole layout if you go with that super tall height. So I kind of scaled that, compressed the tree height a little bit. But you can kind of get the idea here with the foliage. And some of this stuff is going to fall off. You could use hairspray to help adhere it later, or some other type of glue project. But this really holds them on initially, and that's just the beginning right there. But go ahead and fill out your whole crown the way you want it. Yeah, be careful, because when these touch each other, they're going to kind of glue together. They'll stick together there too. And you can go ahead and do something with the bark. I mean, you could leave them natural like this. But one of the things I did was I used some of this rubber cement, and I rubbed this stuff on and kind of built up the bark, especially towards the bottom. Tried to get kind of a rough appearance with that. And then I just would coat the bottom with that stuff. And then I actually used black pepper as a texturizer, and it can be painted over this. And I found that gray and black mixed together make a good color for this white pine. But there you can see between the rubber cement and some of this black pepper or sawdust or whatever maybe favorite type of material that you'd have. You can go ahead and get pretty nice texture on there, and let that dry, and then you could paint it your dark color to try to mimic your tree. And there we have it. And that's our this is what our finished product looks like. And these are going to be grouped together rather tightly, but these are supposed to be like the old growth trees, and that's kind of why the foliage is rather spread out and the branches aren't symmetrical. But here we have easy white pine, old growth tree, made with a scouring pad and a twig and a few glue products. And put your artistic talent to work and have fun with your hobby.